Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Look at this beauty. You see this thing right here? I just got this. I love Libertads. I just love these things. This is a Proof 70 Ultra Cameo. Isn't that a good way to start the show? It's just, God, I love that piece. Wounded Warriors was a fabulous, fabulous, fabulous event. $118,000 was raised.
Right.
Huge, amazing. Blue Angels absolutely come alongside. I have got to give a freaking monster shout out to Vote for Pedro for his amazing effort and diligence in trying to get things coordinated and organized and structured in the way that he has. Absolutely fabulous to everybody who posted it. And I mean, there was an army of people who came together to make that benefit such a success. And honest to God, there's just too many people to name. If you were there, you know that there were just tons and tons and tons of people who come alongside and, hosted the moderators and then streamed. I mean, God, they streamed, I think, between the 3 or 4 days. It was like 26, 27 hours. Massive amount of work, just a phenomenal job. So congratulations to everybody. Hey, Steve, that's another guy who really blew up the very last hour and I mean, blew up. He was throwing stuff together. The last lot was insanity. But did an amazing job. So congratulations, Wounded Warriors. Again, a great benefit. Congratulations. 118 grand. That's unreal. To date, if I remember correctly, they're almost at a $500,000 raised. I think they're like 30,000, 40,000 under $500,000 raised in like 3.5 years. Absolutely.
Life has been changed.
Yeah, absolutely blowing the doors off things. So again, congratulations, everybody. Fabulous, fabulous work. Yeah, just nuts. Wounded Warriors just crushed it. And again, you can't beat the benefit. And thank you for everybody who attended. It was a ton of fun. So
it was fun. I popped in a couple times, and it was a lot of fun. Yeah, Memorial Weekend's always like busy around here, but yeah.
So yeah, I want to go over a couple of things. Today's going to be a little bit of numismatics, a little bit of stacking, and we're going to be talking about some legislation that came out.
We're not. You are.
Okay, I am. But why am I going to be talking silver and gold? Why am I worried about what Maryland and Washington have done? Why am I worried about the bill that was just passed? Well, because it's starting to affect the coin collecting world. What do I mean by that? Well, if you look at the legislation that was pushed through not only Washington, but Maryland as well, it directly affects numismatics. Now, a lot of people, there's been a bunch of people who have talked about this in recent days. This was done, I think, a couple of days ago. But this is actually something that it's not brand new, and it can be potentially problematic. Now, we're going to talk about some positive aspects of it. We're going to talk about some negative aspects of it. But I want to kind of give you guys just a general overview of what's going to be discussed. I'm going to treat this more like a video in kind of the first 30, 40 minutes, and then we're going to have our live discussion. So I'm going to do a little bit of teaching here for a little bit. Because I want to remind
people real quick before you go.
Yeah.
Okay. So Jack Riley, Jackalope, Kevin, Noodle, Steve, Siren, Farm Dog, Pete, Robert. Good morning.
Now, see, this is when you know that your co-host has your back. You know what I mean? Hey, what's going on, folks? Yeah, thank you, Paula, for doing that. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm just digging straight in. Like my mind is on a mission. So
I know.
today we're going to talk.
Portrait also or no?
Say again.
No portrait, right?
Yeah.
You
It's
are
both.
on portrait. Okay. Well, good morning, everybody over in portrait. I can't see it, so.
Yeah. Well, just thanks everybody for being here. I appreciate it. All right. So let's dig into this. I want to look at some compelling aspects of both economic and financial history. I want to look at things like the role of taxation, silver and gold for the United States. And in order to do that, we have to look at some of the history. And if you think about what silver and gold are, we think about numismatics. Numismatics is ancients, it's new coins, it's exonumia, it's currency. We're talking about the whole gamut of this. But when you look at the legislation that's happened over the last, let's say, 150 years, there's been a lot of, Mike's like, quit holding Frosty back. She's not holding me back, dude, I promise you. There's been a lot of things that have kind of led us to where we are. And I want to give you guys, it's more in-depth overview. Now, you've heard the stackers talk about this a lot when they talk about things like the 1933 Gold Executive Order, where they did the oppression, 6102. This was done, the Great Depression, President Roosevelt. They talk about confiscation. We talk about other coin acts. I'm going to be hitting some of these points because they're really important to the discussion that I want to have here in a little while. So I want to look at the trajectory, looking primarily at legislative acts. Now, we've talked about this with the recent coin fiasco about the cent and what's happening with the cent, and oh my God. And here in about a week, we're going to find out what's happening. Did they actually even mint more cents? My guess is that the number is going to go up again. Okay. We'll probably won't see much after that. I think they've probably reached their quota, but we'll see numbers in June. But there are certain ideological items that have to happen in order for us to kind of understand where we're at in today's economic location and position, right? And where we are in relation to numismatics and our hobby of coin collecting. So let's start with Great Depression. And I talked about this, the confiscation of gold, Executive Order 6102. Now, we look at the Great Depression, a period of unprecedented economic turmoil that happened in the United States. And on April 5th, 1933, the president issued Executive Order 6102. Now, this was landmark because this is the first time that under the authority of Trading with the Enemy Act, and this happened in 1917, again, just 4 years post the creation of the Fed. Let's talk about the generation of money and what happens. It basically effectively mandated that the surrender of privately held gold, gold bullion, gold certificates, and all that stuff were forced to be turned in to the Federal Reserve. Now, there was a little bit of an exception in this time frame, and that was numismatics. If it had collectability, there was a kind of a quid pro quo, right? If you're doing this for collectors' purposes and you're doing this to ensure that the protection of your gold and silver is done in a collectible form because you're collecting the history and there's numismatic value in it, they wanted to protect the rich history of our coinage. Okay, we will allow this kind of break from that, given a certain amount of money. Okay, but what did the Federal Reserve do? What did the president do? What did they do in relation to this? Well, they ended up turning around and buying it for $20.67 a troy ounce, and then flipped it by raising the gold price to $35, and then trading that with our international partners to support some events that were happening overseas. So they basically hosed us of our silver and gold to try and help build the economy. And it wasn't necessarily for the economic stability of the United States. It was the economic stability of our partners at the time, which is where we had a lot of our money tied into. Again, we're talking 1933. We needed other countries to be strong to ensure that the dollar that we were trying to build as a uniform center of value would be accepted throughout the world, right? There were greater purposes of this. That's the whole Reserve Act and why we did this and where the centralization of money came from. Now, when we talk about the term confiscation, it was a compelled sale, right? Where there were severe penalties for people who weren't compliant. Now, it doesn't mean that everybody was compliant. We know this because there's a lot of pre-33 gold out there, right? So we know that not everybody kind of came into this. But what this is this is a critical step in severing the direct link between the dollar and gold. Now, why is that important? Well, let's move to 1965. 1965, and I don't know if people really understand the criticality of the year 1965, not only for silver and gold, but for numismatics. There were some major things that happened in 1965 that really kind of desegregated the silver and gold, God's money, as we would like to call it, to fiat, right? We separated silver from the monetary. We demonetized silver. That was fundamentally the Coinage Act of 1965. And so as we moved into that mid-20th century, we incurred another legislative act. Again, this is where we look at the demonetization of that 40 and 90% silver, right? That's where we went from 90 and then we went down to silver to, what was it, 69 or 70, right? I think, was it 70? I know 69, but I think there were some items in 70. But they utilized the rising, well, I think it was, 70. Thank you, Mike. I always think about it as 69, but I think it's like, no, there are actually some in 70. I always get that wrong, so I appreciate that. Why was this a big deal? Well, we needed to look at a couple of things. Number one, the excuse. The excuse was the rising prices of silver meant that the intrinsic metallic value of the coins began to exceed their face value. Now, when that happens, and it's happened throughout history, we've seen it happen a number of different times, and the coin no longer holds value to it, right? Where we look at 1792, 1785, that time frame leading to the Coin Act of 1873, where there were periods of time where the U.S. money was not as highly sought after. And so they would melt down the U.S. money because they could exchange it for bullion and get more money from it. Well, this was happening in 1965. People were starting to hold what many people call constitutional silver. And by the way, if you don't know why people call it constitutional silver, we'll talk about that here in just a second. It's junk silver. It's not constitutional silver, but there is something in the Constitution that actually references it as constitutional. And that's where people get that term, by the way. We'll get there in a second. But the whole purpose of this was they utilized the term national coin shortage. Now, we've heard this before, right? We've heard this during COVID. We hear this when they're talking about the cent and all this other stuff. This is common language. They talk about this when they want to make a particular action. And so when they do this, they have to counteract the crisis, right? And these are, I'm doing air quotes over here. Counteract the crisis, okay? And they do this by doing some sort of legislation. Well, this happened in 1965. And again, as stated before, it jumped from 90 down to 40, and then in 1970, basically removed silver from circulating coinage. Well, why is this a big deal? Well, because what most people don't know, aren't aware of, is that the defining of legal tender happened with USC 5103. Now, if you're not familiar with 5103, this is the culminating of all explicit language. It's a statute for understanding modern legal status of all U.S. currency. This is the genesis, if you will, of the Coinage Act of 1965. Section 102 in particular declared that all coins and currency of the United States shall be legal tender for all debts, public, private, public charges, taxes, duties, and dues. It established the uniform acceptance of things like U.S. currency as the official mean for payment of all financial obligations, aka the regenesis, the final nail in the coffin for silver and gold as money and the total reliance and shift to fiat currency. Okay. Now, I want to go through this because as we start to talk about what's happening in Maryland and Washington, it's important that you understand 31 USC 501 or 5103 and Public Law 97258. Okay. And I'm going to be, I've got this entire thing that I'm going to be laying out for you. I'll be putting it in the description. I just didn't have time to put all this stuff in. Again, it was more about writing this and making sure I checked the facts, I had the dates, and make sure I had all the information in hand. But I will give you all this reference information. Now, when we look at this particular line, the reserve banks, national banks are, kind of, how do I say this? The United States coins and currency, okay, including what the Federal Reserve had as their notes and the reserve banks and the national banks, were all legal tender for debt, okay? But this is where they stopped allowing foreign gold or silver to be utilized as legal tender. You couldn't utilize it for debts, right? So the bullion basically was cut out. We couldn't utilize bullion as money anymore. I want to jump to a little bit about what happened in Maryland and Washington, and I'm going to jump back into the bills. There was an important amendment that happened, and I talked about Public Law 97452. Okay, this is another one. And this happened 1982, 1983. And this is one that actually changed the way money and taxes, as in public changes, public charges, taxes, dues, had been emphasized in 5103. And that is that while silver and gold may possess inherent value as commodities, they are not, by default, recognized as legal tender for satisfying federal tax obligations or private debts in the U.S. They have to be specifically and explicitly agreed upon by both parties. Now, this is important. This is very important because if we look at some of the other videos and the other discussions that I've had, we talked about the legislation that's happened in Wisconsin, Minnesota, Texas. We talked a lot about what's going on in the Texas bill. That's still sitting up. It's ready to go up to the next level when they meet again because they're looking at ways to bypass this. This is one of the major issues. Well, this law for Washington and this law for Maryland, the Washington one that was just passed, actually is a move in a direction that if we go into, will now allow for the taxation of numismatic sales. What does that mean? That means that they'll actually be taxing money. So there'll be a tax on buying money. I want you to think about what that's going to do to our hobby. I want you to kind of, in the back of your mind, I want you to think about the potential issues that are there. Now, there have been 5 other states who have looked at, again, I agree, THS, right? We need to really support these. But I want to look at this from the standpoint of 5 states that have overturned this. In particular, I want to look at Florida. Florida, in what they call a notable development, Governor Ron DeSantis, who I could care less for, honestly, as a person, signed CSB HB 999 into law. Now, what this did is this positioned Florida to look at silver and gold and recognize silver and gold as legal tender. This is huge. Okay. Now, it's huge not only for the stacking community, but it's huge for the numismatic community as well, because it moves us towards, again, a bipartisan legislation that allows for the exemption of sales tax on qualifying gold, silver, and numismatic purchases. Now, this takes effect in 2026, and I believe it's July 1st, and it will allow multiple things. Number one, it'll allow for the use of gold and silver to be used in payments of debts, taxes, and other government payments. Now, you can do this through private businesses if you want to. And Texas has jumped on board to this. They're trying to pass this legislation as well. Wisconsin is doing it. There's other places that are trying to move towards this. But Florida has positioned themselves kind of at the forefront of doing this. Now, what does this mean? Well, it means that Florida identified something when they had charged taxes on silver and gold. And what they actually found is that it was detrimental to not only the community, not only for, and if you think about the population density in Florida, you're talking about more senior citizens, you're talking about a higher level of people who are looking at lifelong investments for people other than themselves, right? These are older people who have, in many cases, a very fixed income, and taxes just prevent them from doing other stuff. It prevents them from investing in silver and gold. It prevents them in investing in numismatics. It is a tax on the people who are not nearly as wealthy. When you tax things that are non-commodities that are used as talked as being a commodity, which silver and gold, it doesn't make sense to me. The reason that silver and gold is quote unquote a commodity is because of use in industrial applications. But for the people like us who are collecting it as hobby or collecting it to offset, we don't buy it and turn around and flip it. We sell it and we store it. It's not something that should be done as a tax upon purchase. It's something that should be realized in a capital gain. So if you sell it, there should be something there. That's normally how it's gone in the past. So how are they going to do this? Well, if you know the recent discussion by the POTUS, the President of the United States, for those of you who don't know what POTUS stands for, they've talked about removing and repealing things like capital gains taxes. These are huge discussions that have massive implications and massive impact. Now, let's get into Washington State. Okay, Washington State recently opted to repeal its longstanding sales tax exemption. Now, this was on metal bullion and coins. Okay, now this is Senate Bill 5794. You've probably heard a number of people talk about this. It was signed by Governor Bob Ferguson and was set to eliminate the exemption on October 1st of this year. If there is any kind of push, then it's going to go back to the start of the new year. And I'm going to take a quick drink real quick, so bear with me. And that will be on January 1st, 2026. Now, why is this? Well, because there's a secondary legislation that's going through looking at some other things that, let's just say, they've been told by a little birdie that this is probably not a good idea for them. So they have to do what always happens within legislation. They have to have a committee go look at it and see what's happening. They have to look at a broader aspect of physical strategy and anticipated shortfalls within their budget. Now, because of the ideals and the things that Washington has put into place, there's going to be some consequences. Purchases of gold and silver will be subject to local state tax, which can exceed, okay, folks, ready for this? 9 to 10%. I want you to think about this. Gold is at $3,300 right now, $3,400 right now. That means if you buy a gold coin, you're going to be charged $300 in tax. So right out of the get-go, trying to buy that piece is automatically going to put you upside down $300 on the purchase of that particular numismatic or bullion coin. That's a significant tax. This is not a little thing. And obviously, the decision has drawn a lot of attention within the stacking and precious metals community, as well as precious metals industry. That is exactly. That is the exact word I was about to use, Mike. It's a regressive tax. The problem with this, and a lot of people don't understand this, and if you look at, and I've got some articles here, and I'm going to pull up these very, very quickly. I'm not going to go through them. The governor of Maryland and Washington repeal coin tax. This was done by Graysheet. Graysheet's getting involved in this. We look at ones called Discovery Alert. Discovery Alert is, they talk about Money and Gold. They're a financial institution. I don't support them. They're not sponsors. I'm not getting paid for any of this. But they talked about what happens and what they need to look at and why other states, again, we're talking about 5 other states, 42 in total, but 5 other states that have done this, that can turn around and went back and said, no, we've lost our butts in Texas because we've done this, and they end up repealing it. When you look at the news, when you look at some of the other items, you can look at some of the other financial industries, and you look at tourism. You look at some of the other items where people go to certain places because, they do, oh, wait, hold on. Yeah, coin shows. How's that going to affect things within coin shows? Right. And again, when you're doing stuff like this, there's secondary or number 2 and tertiary number 3 levels of reactions that have to happen and have to be considered. Washington and Maryland really haven't taken the secondary and tertiary effects of this, or the second and third order of effects, into consideration when making this. They're looking at immediate income. They're looking at immediate turns in profit. And it's going to cause people in those 2 states some difficulty buying it. Now, when Paul and I were talking about this at the very beginning, she's like, well, why don't they just go to Oregon and buy it in Oregon? Well, that's exactly what's going to happen. And when we look at some of the things that happened in Florida, that was a major thing that happened. And that was people were leaving the state to buy it. They were buying it under the tune of, as Mike said earlier in here, under $10,000. And so they were going to go buy, they would go buy 2 or 3 coins, they would go back, keep that at that $9,500 level. And then they would go and they would come back, and they would go and they'd come back. Or they would take 10 or 11, Lost internet, Transformer Blue. She'll be back. Thanks, Paula. Hopefully you can listen on your phone. But when we look at what the negative outcomes of this were, when we look at the situations that occurred, this was very detrimental to the state of Florida. Well, Washington's going to have to figure that out. Maryland, similarly, oh man, let me also move to repeal its state tax exemption for precious metal bullion. 10,000 is a dumb level. It needs to be modified. Again, there are ways around it, right? And I know that there have been people who have taken family members in, and they've been given, $9,000. They buy 2 gold coins and they buy, 50 ounces of silver, and they come in at $9,500, $9,600, and then you have 10 families, make individual transactions. There are people who know how to circumnavigate this. Now, I'm not saying to do that. I'm not promoting that. But where there's a will, there's a way. And so it's going to back. There's ways around this. But the ultimate thing here is when Maryland and Governor Westmore signed House Bill 532 or 352, excuse me, they're basically looking at the exact same thing. This one is going to take effect July 1st. Now, this is a little bit different. Baltimore Center looked at incurring cells when they're doing coin shows of 6%, right? They said if we're going to have a coin show here, we're going to be mandating a 6% charge for doing this. Well, if you guys think, where was the last big show for the ANA? It was in Baltimore. How many big people that are going to go spend a ton of money if they know that they're going to have between a 6 and a 10% sales tax on silver, gold, and numismatics? How many people do you think they're going to not go to those kind of shows? What kind of impact is it going to have for those people who go to those coin shops or go to those coin shows looking for, oh yeah, I know, I'm very aware. There's going to be some fight over this, right? It's not going to happen. I'm not saying it's going to happen. Oh, that expo was exempt. Okay, actually, you know what? That's exactly, okay, I read that wrong. While a narrow exemption for the transaction for the Baltimore Center was retained. Okay, so they actually do get to take, okay, I read that wrong. Thanks for the catch, Mike. I appreciate it. That was a good catch. But what's, again, they're looking at short-term turnarounds. And ultimately it's going to hurt us. So I wouldn't, personally, this is just, again, I don't make financial recommendations. I do this for educational pieces. I am not a consultant, so please don't take my word as solid and go make investments based off of, my limited capacity for knowledge in that realm. But what I wanted to do, and we can move into the actual conversation portion of this now, I wanted to give you guys the generalized history of this. Again, this is nothing new. This has been going on since the Fed took over in 1913. 1917, there was a major act that happened. 33, 65, 82. And again, we're looking at a constant separation of silver and gold. But this one was really kind of nerve-wracking because it started to include numismatics. And, oh, yeah, absolutely. Again, it's going to hurt the hobby. They'll have to repeal this in time because there's going to be a lot of people, and it's going to cause money to go away from those states. I know people that they just won't purchase. I mean, Maryland is a small state, folks. You can drive for 2 or 3 hours. Now, if that happened in Texas, I'm located in Central Texas. If I wanted to get out of Texas, I'm driving 9 hours. Doesn't matter which direction I go, unless I go to Mexico, right? And so Maryland, man, it's a very, very short jump, and you can get to another state and take care of this. And there are other states. I mean, good grief, go to New Hampshire, right? The states don't necessarily understand that they're hurting themselves. But I wanted to give you guys kind of a historical precedent and just kind of talk a little bit about, this isn't anything new. It's just a different advent. And don't get caught up in rhetoric. Don't get hung up in people, because this is FOMO crap, folks. Right? Now, if you live in Washington and you live in Maryland, you have an absolute reason to worry about this. But do not go through and freak out because, oh my God, they're going to do this and look what's happening and freak out about this. Okay? Do your due diligence. Do what my grandfather used to tell me to do. Act, don't react. Logic is to act. Emotion is to react. And so take time to kind of go through and look at some of these items. And I have done something for you. Now, I'm going to show you this, and this is something that has been created. I am going to post this. If you guys want access to this, I'm going to share my screen. You can put this, if you want to put this on letterhead, you can do so. And I have told you guys that I have been working to take my channel to a more professional level. And so I have taken my time, and again, This date will change based off of whenever you have this. But if you're really adamant about this and you want to do something about it and you want this, I have written a letter regarded or that you can send to your state representatives. It talks about this importance of silver, gold, and numismatic coins. It talks about the residents of your state. It talks about self-preservation. It talks about what we've observed and what we want to do. We give examples regarding the 2 recent pieces of legislation that are there. We talk about the promotional examples. We talk about capital loss of revenue. We talk about supporting local businesses, numismatic heritage, and avoiding taxes. So I have put this together for anybody who wants it. If you want to take this letter and you want to put your name on it, catalog this, send it to your legislators. This is free for everybody. If you want to do this, if this is something of interest to you, reach out to me and I will email this to you. frostbytecoins@gmail.com. I will send you this. You can coordinate and put your letterhead up here, do whatever you want to do. But I put this on here. If you need to tweak it for your own item, or you want to make sure that your state understands the major faux pas that's happening in Washington and Maryland, then let them know, right? Again, how do we make a change? Well, we make an change one person at a time. And if I send this letter by myself, then I'll send another one, and I'll send another one, and I'll send another one. What I usually do in this case is I usually do 25 or 30 of these. I label it 1 week apart, and I send it to the same person for a month, 2 months. I self-addressed stamp envelope them, and I send them off. And why do I do this? Well, I do this because I really want them to see these letters, and they come across. If multiple people do this and they start to see this, sometimes you get action. And I've actually gotten letters back from people that have noticed, right? There was a piece of legislation, and unfortunately it didn't go anywhere. I was really hoping that I could get something done. But a great example of this is Tiger Stacker. Tiger Stacker constantly was talking to somebody and actually got to somebody by the name of Delegate Chris Pritt there in West Virginia, and worked with him and actually was able to get an interview, and he actually became a kind of staple for quite a while he was a delegate. Ends up being that he's going to be appointed another position in the West Virginia government. And so taking action, a lot of people say, well, you can't necessarily do anything by this and it doesn't get noticed. It 100% does. It just takes effort. So if this is something you're interested in doing and you really want to talk about this, then I've created this for you. It's open to everybody. Again, all you have to do is email me. I'll send it to you. It's free of charge. And I will be happy to send this off. So just let me know. And with that, I apologize. I have not been following chat. Obviously, I've had resources up and available to look at different things and to do that. Mike, again, thank you so much for catching me on the thing there in Baltimore. I misread that. So good catch there. Thank you. But what are your guys' thoughts on this? And Paula, thank you for popping back in. What are your thoughts on this? What's good? What's bad about it? What are your guys' concerns, both in the stacking and the collecting communities?
Well, I wouldn't buy in Washington and Maryland. That's my thoughts. That's about as far as it goes.
Say that one more time. You came in really quiet.
I said I wouldn't buy in Washington or Maryland. That's my thoughts on that. Hello?
Yeah. Well, so I'm just trying to catch up on chat, so I apologize.
No, they're doing good. Mike's been answering questions and
Oh, outstanding. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Mike. I appreciate you. Yeah, THS boycotting them is just it hurts. It hurts the mom and pop shop.
Yeah.
There's not much of a win for the dealers and the people who sell in Washington and Maryland, right? Move. Well, the problem is and these pieces of legislation shift. But how do you make an impact? Well, you need to start looking at who you vote for. The people that are pushing this legislation through are people that have been voted into office. Start looking at what their ideas are. Now, I'm not telling you to choose a specific party. I'm not going to jump party lines. I'm not going to do that. That's not why I'm here. I'm here to inform. I'm not here to start a political discussion. But it's important that you look at things and understand the implications of this. Coins making sense. You will see coin shows and hobby-related businesses in these states will start to dry up. Absolutely.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah. And what does that do for commerce in that area? Well, it also takes potential revenue, if we're talking specifically coin shows, it takes potential revenue from out-of-state patrons and diverts it. It diverts it to states that aren't going to do this. But what does it do for the stacking and the collecting community in those particular states? It's going to crush us, right? Now, we are very fortunate.
It pushes them to other avenues, like buying from people on YouTube or, buying from eBay. I don't know.
And therein lies the second portion.
You still have to pay. Yeah. But
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you.
Oh, that's okay. No, I just was thinking if they live in those states and they buy on eBay, I guess they still would have to pay taxes. Is that or is it this? So do they pay taxes from where the seller, like if the seller is in a state that doesn't charge taxes, and the buyer is in a state that does the buyer still have to pay taxes, or like how does that work?
So it depends upon the platform. For instance, if you buy something from Amazon and you have a commercial tax, so like I live in Texas, and then I purchase something on Amazon, I pay that state tax. Okay, but here's the question: if I am doing a transaction, and this is sticky wicket stuff, okay. If I am in a coin show, let's say I go to Washington and I'm at a coin show, and I say, there's a coin that you have, but I want to purchase it before I get there, quote unquote. Okay. I saw this online and I want to buy this. And they purchase that online. And because they're out of state, do they still have to pay the state tax from it? So, for instance, if I live in Texas and I don't have a tax on this, or I live in Florida, let's use Florida just because we just got the repeal. We just talked about the repeal piece.
Right.
So let's use Florida and Washington, or Florida and Maryland. Then do I make the purchase online and, quote unquote, pick it up at the coin shop? Right. And so there's some questionability as to how that's going to be managed. I know from a integrity standpoint, that's not what you want to do. It could potentially get you in trouble. But how many opportunities are going to be out there for people to manipulate buyers on platforms like eBay? What is the likelihood that there's going to be a higher prevalence or counterfeit purchases because people are now trying to look online for better deals that may not be informed about the integrity of a numismatic piece, or understand what they need to look at when you look at silver and gold. A lot, yeah, right? The potential increases. So what is happening here? Well, the more these things happen, the more these nefarious people, these people who are looking to hurt others, it increases the likelihood that they're going to be, what's the word I'm looking for? Subject to scams.
So here's what you do. If you guys live in Washington or Maryland, then, and they charge like a 3% tax on gold or silver, then what you do is you cash out me the money, and I'll only charge you 1%, and then I'll buy it for you.
Well, and again, there's
and this is something.
This is something.
I think that kind of stuff is probably going to happen, right?
I'm going to read you an article, a portion of an article.
We're going to be making backdoor transactions.
Well, so Kevin, that's exactly my concern. Yeah. What happens is you're going to run the risk of potentially creating an illegal transaction. Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so.
And I'm just kidding, YouTube. That was an example, YouTube.
Yeah, but this is the problem, and people need to be aware of this. There are laws in place that are going to get violated that people may not fully understand. And it's important that we do some education to teach people about this. Now, I mentioned earlier that Gray Sheet had done an article. And in that particular article, and again, I'm not sponsored by any of these folks. I don't make money off of me quoting them or reading their stuff or recommending their articles. I don't get acknowledgement. But I do this because, as Mike stated earlier, the people that are talking in this, Mike and myself and Jack, both Jack Riley and Jack Young. Eric, unfortunately, is sick, so he can't be here this weekend. He's taking care of himself. But when I look at this Gray Sheet article, there was something that was said that is very important. It said, leaders of the National Coin and Bullion Association expressed deep concern over the long-term economic impact that these repeals will have on local coin dealers, investors, and collectors. The legislative action will drive commerce out of Maryland and Washington and into neighboring states. Favorable tax treatment. The NCBA Executive Director David Crenshaw said it's a step backward that contradicts successful tax policy models across the country. They're not standing down. In Maryland, they've already made efforts in conjunction with Whitman to partner to mount a comprehensive pushback. They're recommending sending letters. This is one of the reasons that I wrote the letter that I did, because, again, it's very important that there's big boys in this game. There are big people in this fight. And so your voice right now is amplified, and we have the opportunity to get legislative reconsideration of some of these folks and fight for our brothers and sisters in those states that are getting screwed by this, right? So we have the capability and the opportunity to actually make a change. And this is where, yeah, you know what? A single person may not have a voice, but two people raise the decibel level by more than just half. 5 people raise the decibel level more than 5%, right? So we have the capability to make an impact here. And what we need to do is come alongside those folks and engage, not only in education, information dissemination, coins making sense, the information or the dissemination of information in a numismatic nation, right? That's his tagline, and we all know that. And this is exactly what we're here for, to share information, but not to do the FOMO, excuse the expression. Folks, if you don't like swearing, plug your ears, because I'm going to swear for just a moment. Not the information dissemination of the FOMO bullshit that's out there. And you're going to see a lot of it. in the coming days. Oh my God, stackers, beware. Oh my God, be careful. Oh my God, watch. No, don't fall into that. Okay, don't do that. Take time and do some research. Understand what's being said. Look at the information and act. Don't make emotional FOMO. Don't react to videos that are out there, comments that are out there because of, oh, you have to protect yourself, and oh my God, look at how bad this is, and this is terrible, and oh, by the way, buy it from me because I live in another state. Be careful of that, right? It's going to be manipulation, and it's going to be a lot of it. The other thing that I want you, hey, Pedro, what's up, man? I hope you know that I gave you some booming praise earlier. Can you do me a favor, Pedro? Please put in chat the totals for not only for this last run, but for the 3 years for that. Amazing. 118,400 and some odd $1,000. Freaking just crushed it. You guys did an amazing job on the benefit.
And listen, Nick and them did a great job on that benefit for Joe and Diane too.
I unfortunately missed that. I heard great things from that.
They did a great job. That was very sweet of them.
I love the Durbans. Good people.
Yeah.
Joe needs a haircut, but just saying. Just kidding. I'm just jealous. I can't grow a beard. Yeah. But so Mike says there's no call to action, but I'm making a call. Okay. This is what we have. This is what's really good about the opportunities that we have in this community, right? We are stackers, we're collectors. We are, Tiger and I stack collectors. We do that a couple times a month where we talk about stacking and numismatics. And one of the things that's important when we talk about those things is, hey, our communities can help each other. We are not always going to get along. There is no uniformity across the bow because we understand things are different. We understand. We look at these numbers, folks. 118,552. And I was wrong. 75,000 short of 500,000. I thought that was 473. It's 423.
That's so awesome.
Insane numbers. Absolutely amazing. Yeah, nuts. But we have an opportunity to come together. Say again.
They do it again on Veterans Day too.
Yep, twice a year. But we have the opportunity here to kind of, the stacking and the collecting community are not at war with each other. We just have different ways of looking at things. If you're a pure stacker, you're looking at weight and preservation of wealth. But there are people who are stacking collectors, and there are people who are collectors who like to stack, and there are people who like to stack collectible items. That's not a really smart way to go. But there's ways in which we come together. But in situations like this, our communities can come together and speak as a more unified voice. This affects both of us, folks. It's no longer just precious metals. They've included numismatics. And we need to watch this because this is something that we need to start looking at, because again, when we talk about 1965 and the fact that the utilization of numismatics is now going to be tied to bullion, gold and silver, they're trying to fundamentally relieve us of our power to purchase with the metals, but they want to charge us a fee for buying it, effectively taxing money, charging us money for the purchase of money. How can that be constitutional?
Taxes on taxes.
Yeah. So again, we can get into this. No taxes in Arizona, and but it's just I want you to be informed, right? I want you guys. Number one, what you do behind closed doors is nobody's business.
Okay, Mike, stop it.
Yeah,
That's a
and
fact,
again,
Jack.
the big thing here is to be informed. Okay, that's the big thing here. And a lot of you guys, we've talked about this confiscation thing a number of times. You've heard this on channels. I mean, there's too many to count. Small channels all the way up to the biggest channels in our community. And there's a concern about this, but it's tracking metals, and now we're being taxed on this. Yeah, you know what? We need to watch this, especially when, as people who were just trying to collect something to remember the history of our numismatic stuff, it's potentially problematic. I think that Maryland and Washington made a major mistake, and I think in a short time we're going to see the repeal of that. I don't think it'll last. I think there's going to be a huge public outcry, and we're going to see it. We're going to see problems. So just, again, be careful. Now, I want to get back to one other thing, and Jack Riley said, yes, absolutely. I want to get back to one other thing, and Paula just did an interview again with Jack Young. If you didn't see that, go check out the third installment of that video. There is an opportunity. There is an opportunity here for crooked people to utilize this news to sell silver and gold and fake coins. I want you guys to be very careful. I want you to take extra caution. They're getting better. They're watching Jack. They're watching Paula. They're watching me. They're watching Mike. They're watching Matt.
And
right?
Can I just say something real quick about that? They really are watching, because if you watch our video, Jack talks about how he used to be able to get so much stuff, he'd report it and they'd remove it and blah, 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 and it kind of stopped. Well, I don't think it's coincidence that right after we made that video, eBay started removing sellers. When Jack has been reporting it 3 times, boom, 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 these sellers disappeared. So our channel is small. I'm not sure what's going on, but I know they know who Jack is.
Yep.
And so I don't think it's us. I don't think it's the LiveCoin Q&A that they're watching. I think it's Jack. And I like to believe that we are making a difference, because it's very hard to watch this stuff go on and watch people get scammed. So I like to think that he truly does, Mike. And I like to think that little by little we're making a difference. So, you guys know I'm like I get very protective over the hobby and collectors and stuff, and probably overprotective. But it's so nice. It was so nice to see that. Jack is really excited about it too. I hope he comes in this morning, but.
Hey, Tripwit, $5 super chat. Thank you so much, my friend. I appreciate you.
No.
Yeah, Pedro, you can watch this from the beginning. I think you'll enjoy the historical context of this. It's really important that we kind of understand our history, right? Those who do not understand history are doomed to repeat it. And it's important that you understand and you look at what's happening in your respective states. Look at legislation, and I've showed you guys this before. Go to congress.gov. Start tracking your state stuff. Go to your state legislative sites and start setting it. Put an account and just set alerts. Mm-hmm. If you want to look at silver, gold, and numismatics, find your top 10 catchphrase items that you want to find and set alerts. And anytime bills or movements in those bills that you're watching, you'll get notification of those. And it's a good way for you to track what's happening in your states. Now, I'm not asking you all to become legislative experts. I'm not asking for you guys to become researchers like myself. I love doing this kind of work. I love sharing and learning and teaching. And this is going to sound terrible, but I get off on this. I enjoy giving people the tools to make good decisions. I don't always make smart decisions, and I make mistakes. I'm not perfect. This is why I surround myself with a bunch of people who will hold me to the fire, like Paula, who will tell me exactly what it is and say, hey, you know what? This is where we're at. This is what's happening. I like, look at what happened just a second ago when we were talking about something. Mike Noodle, immediately, that's not exactly right. You have that backwards. Boom. Yeah. This is what we need, right? And this is why we have the capabilities within our community. Everybody within earshot of my voice right now has the capability to be an amazing impact in our hobby. Every one of you, because of the people that are surrounding you. All that it takes is for you to engage a little bit and look at what's happening. Don't react. Avoid FOMO. If the deal is too good to be true, it probably is. But you know what? If you're looking for something, and hey, you know what? And Paula, God, how many times have I sent you a message and said, "What are your thoughts on this coin?"
Yeah, that's right? What I'm here for, though, right?
I have sent. Now, Mike is probably very happy that I don't have his telephone number. Actually, I think I do have his telephone number.
Mike and I do it back and forth too together. Yeah. So there's, that's what we're here for. We're here for each other. So.
But I message people all the time. If I learn, yeah, he's like, you do. If I look at very specific things, there are very specific people that I get a hold of. Because you have to know, and Jack Riley, find your niche too. My niche, I have gone through trying to look at counterfeits to searching coins.
You're still searching for your niche.
Right, I have done all sorts of stuff.
Your niche
right?
is numismatics. That's and stacking. That's your niche.
But my niche is education.
Yeah, education. That's for sure.
Right, that is my niche, and networking. And I'm good at connecting people. I'm good at talking with people. But you know what I'm better at? I'm better at deference to expertise.
You're really good at research.
I love it. I do. What's funny is people are like, you're really smart. It's like, well, no, and I'm not dogging myself and I'm not talking myself up. I've just learned where to look for stuff.
Right.
And knowing where to find stuff is extremely important. Right? Oh, so Pedro, that's a great example. And Paula, you'd be proud. So Pedro contacted me the other day. He said, hey, I'm sending you a coin. It's a gold coin. It's at, of all places, a farm auction. Farm implementation, farm equipment, and there was a gold coin. And he sent me a picture of it, and I pulled up the number. And I'm like, look at the coin and look at the picture. It's the exact one. The same scuff marks are there. The scratch on the surface of the thing, it's all in the same place. It's 100% the exact image that's there. And it's like, well, the auction house is doing it. Have the auction house test it, make sure it's gold. But from what's there, yeah, it absolutely looks authentic. I mean, the scuff marks, everything on the image was exact, right? There was no denying it. Sometimes you just need a second opinion, right? And I told him very clearly, check with the auction house and make sure they test it, right? They have due diligence to make sure that it's authentic. But yeah, it's good. So go through and look at that. And I was very clear with Pedro, right? Get a second opinion. Please get a second opinion. You're talking about the potential of a few $1,000s. But the thing is that we all have people we can turn to for this. And if I don't know, God, I will send the picture to Paula. There are people who are engaged in in chats all the time. I have to laugh at some of these. I love your guys' channel, but I have to stay away from Facebook a lot. It drives me nuts. People on Facebook are crazy.
Oh, I feel you. And so I am in a lot of Facebook groups, more than I need to be. I get roped in. But I will say one thing about our group, though, is we try to run a very tight ship. We don't allow people to come in and just give random answers or whatever. Like, if you're going to answer somebody's question in our group, in our Facebook group, you better back it up with something. Yeah, we're pretty strict, and there's a few groups out there that are like, Jack Riley knows. He's also in a lot of the groups that I'm in, and he sees like the aggravation. It's tough. I feel you. It is. It's aggravating at times. But somebody has to do it.
Yep.
Somebody has to be an advocate for these new collectors and stuff. Somebody has to be out there trying to steer them in the right direction. So boy, it's hard sometimes, but yeah, I feel you.
Well, and there are some channels out there that do a really good job. Dark Side Numismatics, a phenomenal channel. Jack Young has done amazing work there. I'm always amazed at the level of knowledge that is bounced back and forth in numismatics in that particular one. Unreal, right? And then looking at some of the other ones, man, I have two different platforms that I look at for different stuff. If I want to look at my grandfather, I just found this in my grandfather's collection, I go to Instagram. Because that's all it is. Hmm? I found this in my grandfather's collection. I found this in my mom's collection. Boy. I found this in my... And what they are, a lot of times, is, and half the time they speak in broken English.
Yeah, they're fishing for somebody.
Yeah, they're fishing. Well, not only are they fishing for somebody to tell them something, but they're fishing for people to tell them what's wrong with it so they can go improve it. Yeah, they're asking for feedback on their work, right? Yeah. And why I say this because, and I showed you guys, God, how many? 3 or 4 weeks ago, when I showed the one from Instagram where the guy was working in his shop, and he's like, "I found this in my shop," and it was torched. Oh.
I know, Nick. That's
and it's like, and obviously he came back later on, and he was like, "I'm just trolling everybody and just having fun." Making fun of the people that do this, but it's insane to look at the number of people that are utilizing stuff like what we talked about today to manipulate people. And Trip's not following me on what I'm saying about the grandparents coin. If you go to Instagram and you go to a coin channels, you'll see I found this in my grandfather's collection, or I found this in my grandfather's garage, or I found this in my grandmother's sewing kit, or I found this in my grandmother's laundry, or I found this in my grandmother. And it's the same people showing the same different coins on different channels, and then you see the same person say the same thing with a coin that's almost identical, that's a little bit better.
Yeah. Typically fake or altered is what he's talking about.
And so what they're doing is they're taking a coin and they create. Now, I took let me see if I can find this one. This one made me laugh. And when I looked at it, I took a picture of it. I was like, oh my God, that's freaking hilarious. But I might have inadvertently deleted it because I was clearing out. I did. You guys remember I did the Washington quarter.
Facebook account. Probably smart, Pedro.
Now there's one that has a Washington dollar, the George Washington dollar. And they're saying how rare it is and that it is here. Ready? Okay.
It's not a Jefferson dime.
Let me see. Let's see if I can do this. I'm going to have to turn off the light. Hold on.
Oh Lord, I can see it already.
Oh, it's lovely. It's lovely. Okay, and then there's the reverse. You know.
Oh yeah, the chicken.
Yeah, the $20 chicken.
$20. $20.
So, yeah, the 1944 famous George Washington $20 chicken.
The chicken.
Yes. So, and these are the things. And by the way, this is the same seller that had the George Washington that he said it was a famous medal from 1863 or something like 1886 or something like that, which is the year that the designer of that quarter was born. Right? Same exact person. And so they're the creator, right? Because what's the likelihood that you would get two counterfeit coins like that that were so terribly done? But they're looking and they're trying to develop and trying to find ways to fool people into new stuff. And it's something that you have to be careful with. And so information is power. And I want you guys, when you're looking at some of these stories, to think critically. Take a minute and go, what is this actually saying? I won a counterfeit yesterday. Can you elaborate, Jack? What do you mean you won a counterfeit?
Probably on a eBay listing or something. Him and Jack Young.
Oh yeah, I keep forgetting that eBay's a auction house.
Yeah. Oh, there was a Henning though that just sold. It was up for like 10 days on eBay. We were all watching it in Joe Cronin's group. It just sold for what was it? Like $845 or whatever.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, it was a 46 Henning. $845. So Henning nickels, like, they're hot right now.
Well, if one just sold for that, you can guarantee there's going to be more coming up. 1900 O.
The 1900 O. Oh yeah, I did see that, Jack. Yeah, the micro O.
The micro O, yeah. Which is, when you talk about your recent article, it makes perfect sense that you would buy that one.
Yep.
And if you guys haven't done that, Jack, if you'll do me a favor, we talked about this last week. Throw your article in there regarding the SLQs. If you haven't seen Jack's article on the SLQ, that was a really good article. He did a really good job on that. And
the BAM 48 one, yeah.
Yeah, I like the Standing Liberty quarter. It's a really good design when it's not worn down. If it's worn down, I can't stand the look of it. But when it's AU or better, it's a really good looking design. And well, Jack Riley, reach out to me. Did you ever get the images of the one that was sent to me? I ended up sending it to Jack so he could research it more.
That was a fun one.
Yeah, he was very happy when he received that one. And that one came at the suggestion of Paula that I send that over to him. And I'm glad I did, because when he got it, he was like, "Oh man, yeah, I'm going to get a lot of use out of this one." That was a fun one to look at.
Ask him about it.
Yeah, ask him about it. Have him show that was it a 28?
I don't remember.
I did a video on the SLQs. You can go back through and look at. There's two SLQs. One was real, one was not. But thank you. There's this Ploxy blog. Go if you like Standing Liberty quarters. He did a really good job with that, and I want to promote. Jack is doing some amazing work. He's on fire and really lighting it up on the counterfeit identification end, and so just I want to really promote him. He's doing amazing work, and between him and Jack Young, they're Mike Noodle said they're doing the Lord's work, and that's absolutely right. So I want to give huge props to him because he's doing a good job. I learn a lot from him. What did Pedro say? Oh, Glacier. Yeah, Glacier's gorgeous.
What is Glacier?
Glacier National Park. Oh, it's beautiful.
Oh.
Yeah, there's
Is that in Alaska?
Goodness.
Camped there. Oh, I can't wait to go camping this summer. I hope I'll be up to it.
I just posted a video of a fake 2024 Silver Eagle. All right, Southern. Email me the link. I'll throw that in there. No landscape, hey portrait mode. Oh, hold on just a sec. I'll send you the link to that.
Oh, I saw that video. I think I saw that video. I think I saw that video where you did the ping test, and I think that's the one, right? Yeah, I think I saw that video where you did 2024 ASE. I couldn't really see the coin, but I could hear it.
Sorry about that. I just dropped the landscape mode in there for those of you that are watching vertical mode. The way that they've done this now, you go live on both through a single
landscape mode in the landscape chat.
I dropped it in both.
Oh.
Okay. Because the way that it's done now is I only go live on one and it opens up the other one. I can't set it up to go live.
Oh.
I no longer have to set two.
Okay.
The way that I do it now, I only have to do one, and it pulls it into both.
That's why I didn't see it.
Yeah, okay. And so.
Handy.
I had tried for a couple of weeks, and it kept not doing the portrait mode, and it won't fire it off anymore. YouTube's blocked it from setting up two identical streams. They allow you to stream the same one into two modes, but you can't set up two identical streams.
Thank you, freaking awesome.
Hey, freaking awesome. What's going on?
Link, freaking awesome.
Thanks for throwing that in there. Appreciate it.
Good morning. What? Stupid Spilk.
Exactly. Thanks for dropping that. Freaking awesome. Hope you're doing well, bud. The 1920 was showing. Oh, perfect. Yeah. It's go check that out. It's a great article, and again, Southern Coin. Go check out that one too. So, but yeah, just like I said, I wanted to bring this to you guys and gals. The Paula Echo is priceless. Are you on your tablet?
Yeah, but I have my speaker, my Snowball plugged in. That's the first time somebody said something. Am I echoing? Anybody hearing echo?
Invisible says that you're echoing. I can't hear it on my end, but
sibilance. It's okay, he said. Okay. Sorry. It's deep. No echo. Trip said no echo. Well, I'm deep, so there is that. A little
I'm
echo,
knee-deep.
but it's intermittent. I think it's probably, what's probably happening is I keep pulling my tablet closer to me, and when I do that, it gets closer to the Snowball, the little mic.
Oh, I got you.
So that's probably why. That's probably why it's going in and out. So I will keep it far away.
Oh, too much fun. You guys are a hoot.
Yeah.
So did you guys enjoy this? And again, I try to do things that you guys would like. This is just one of those. I've seen a number of people talk about this. Do you guys enjoy the history of things? Do you guys like going back through, taking what's happening in the concurrent world and talking about the history of stuff? Do you want to do? I need to actually have Mike back up and do more with him. I keep saying I want to have Aaron up, and I have not had Aaron Burke up yet. I do want to talk ancients. A lot of people keep saying they want to have up there. Mike, can you help me coordinate with Aaron a time? I don't know what his schedule is.
I know.
Yeah, huge history nerd. Gimme. Yeah, I know Pedro loves it. We talk about that all the time. So if you guys like that, we can do it. I don't want to. Thanks, bud. I appreciate it. I don't want to. Farm Dog, thanks for coming in, bud. I appreciate you. Hope you have a great day. Enjoy yourself. You be safe as well. I don't want to do tons of history if people want to see coins. So I want to do combinations of both. I want to show you guys some cool stuff. I want to have Eric do some coin roll searches. I want to have Mike come up and do some talks about what's happening on their end. I want to have Aaron come up and do something on ancients. I want to bring you guys some variety. Let me know what you guys like. I just felt this was important to discuss because the opportunity of what's happening is going to put members in Washington and Maryland, in my perspective, it's going to put them in harm's way for greater opportunities for either the unintended legal potential for problems. And I say unintended because a lot of people may not really understand that some of the actions that they do are illegal. So I'll say unintended. There's going to be some definitely intended things that happen with this. But the other one is the potential for the counterfeit. And people looking for a good deal. I think it's really going to, it's going to plague people who want to search online and try to find people that, they want to buy elsewhere. So I urge caution.
Robert Bruce has a question.
How do you all decide what coins to get graded, especially in pennies? Don't.
If you have to ask if a coin should be graded, then don't grade it.
Yeah. So
you need.
Please, Paula.
Go ahead.
Please.
I was just going to say you need to be able to grade coins yourself with a fair amount of accuracy before you start diving into the grading game. Most coins are not worth the cost of having them graded. And it can be a very expensive lesson. So many coins that you buy that you want to have graded, you could probably buy cheaper, already graded.
Agree. There's great examples because Eric posts a nickel up almost every week or a penny up every week. And in most of the cases, it costs more to grade than the coin's worth.
Yep.
He does that a lot. Now,
Tomorrow,
I will say if you have something like a 1955 double die, even that coin is not something you have to get graded because that coin will sell by itself. However,
you have it authenticated.
That's going to be the big one. Yeah. But coins like that sell themselves. So you don't have to get those graded. Now, if you want to protect it and you want to make sure that it's put aside and you're doing it for what we call the right reasons, i.e., you really want to do it, then okay, that's fine. But just be aware that just because you grade a coin doesn't mean it's going to be worth more money.
No, it's still worth the same in the slab as it is out of the slab. The difference is that many times coins that are graded people are willing to pay a little bit more for them sometimes, and even that depends on what grading company it is and what the person prefers. Do they prefer NGC? Do they prefer PCGS? I think typically, and I'm not a coin dealer, but Mike's in the chat. Typically, I believe that like PCGS graded coins bring a little bit more of a premium than NGC or NX.
Agree.
And it's not because, I don't think it's because the grading is more accurate. I think it's just because for whatever reason, people prefer them.
So, Trip,
yeah.
RPMs. RPMs are the same situation. Now, there are some RPMs that are extremely valuable. They sell for a lot of money because they're cool, they're unique. But take Coins and Ghouls, right? He does a lot of his stuff raw. Now, I'll tell you what to do is look at your slabbed coins or RPMs. Because you can find them because they're not always labeled. You can cherry pick them. And I've got a great RPM and a Buffalo nickel that I bought for like $18, $19. It's slabbed that the RPM is worth 40, 50.
Even that, very few repunchment marks are worth having graded. And it still depends on the grade of the coin itself.
Agree. Yeah, and this coin I would have never bought. I would have never graded this coin. I was just looking through various slabs and happened to find it. So you can find slab coins with them in it already, and you just pay for the coin. But there are very few. Now, I will tell you one that if I had a high-grade 1943 double die, I probably would send that in. Just because that's something that I personally would want to do.
Exactly, Mike.
Okay? But you don't have to. Okay? Yeah, I agree, Mike. Just like these, you know what? And I posted something on this and I pissed somebody off on Facebook very badly.
And if you want to protect the coin and you like the look of a slab, you can buy slabs. And I have many of my coins are put in, I get them from like Wizard Coin Supply. Many of them are put in slabs because I want them protected. And it's just easier for me to store the slab than it is like the little plastic round capsules. It's easier to store the slabs for me. But most of the time, my coins are just in a self slab. Exactly, Jack. But most of my coins are just in flips. And I like to be able to take my coins out and put a loop to them or put them under my microscope and enjoy them and look at them. If you have them in slabs, especially from the grading companies, they are sealed. And you just have to be happy looking at them through the plastic. I prefer buying raw coins too. Yep.
You want me to show you an absolute scam? Now, a lot of people are going to get mad at me on this.
Bradford?
They're not going to agree. Okay.
Bradford Exchange.
How much is this bullion coin worth?
Oh, for crying out loud, don't get me started. Buy them
Now,
all.
here's
Buy them all.
one of those things where there's going to be, and this is on my phone, so I got to keep tapping the screen periodically so that it doesn't get lightened up.
Yeah.
When you look at
Buy
the
them
Star
all.
Privy sold the, 129 or whatever it was, and within weeks that the price was dropping and dropping and dropping and dropping. You can see this on eBay anywhere from $200 to $499. $499, not $4.99. Okay. Now, what is the thing? The label. Okay. First day of issue. Okay. So these came from the United States Mint. How many did they mint that day? 20, 30, 40,000?
Yep.
Right. Now, how do we know, the sample image, obviously, this is something that is given by the U.S. Mint to coin dealers to make that. This is ultra rare, right? Oh, wait, hold on. It's not one of the 50,000 ones. This is just a first day of issue. But they want $200 for this particular coin. Oh, wait. Let's talk about the ultra rare 1 in 50,000. Hold on. This mintage is 500,000. It's actually part 2 of $1 million deal that was done between this company and the U.S. Mint. There's 1 million of these coins. One just happens to have an Eagle Privy. This is 500,000. And the other one has the Star Privy. It's 500,000. This particular coin has 500,000, not 50,000. The 50,000 is a marketing ploy. It's a marketing technique to fool people. Okay.
Good morning, Easy.
This one is done by one of our great and powerful members of the community, RCTV. You guys know who RCTV is, right? Wonderful, trustworthy resource in our community, telling you that you need to buy this rare, near one-of-a-kind MS-70 because MS-70s are so rare.
Good morning, Roxilla.
Right, and it's like, no, it's all deception. It's all tomfoolery. Now, here's the thing. Take that particular coin, crack it out, and stick it next to 10 others, and you tell me which one's which, and you tell me the value. You're going to have $350 worth of coins there. Period, end of story. Okay? Because there's nothing unique about the coin. It's all the holder. And if anything happens to that holder for any reason, you've lost all of your value. Numismatics, you buy the coin. If you want to get sucked up into the holder game, now I'm showing this one because this is a great example.
And it's how you want it. It's your
this is a great, the coin that I have here is a great example. Why is that? Limited edition, sugar skull label, perfect 70. There are 364 of these. There's no sugar skull on this coin. It's only on the label. This is just an MS-70, a Proof 70 Libertad. Now, Proof 70 Libertad, I collect Libertads. I'm very happy with this. It's a unique little whatever, but this is total marketing. Oh, and by the way, did I tell you that it's a slab within a slab? So who slabbed this slab? Right. So be careful. Now, I happened to get this at a really good deal. Wasn't created by NGC, but the slab inside is an NGC label. It's a fancy way of taking an NGC label that's, there's a limited number of them, and making it an even bigger deal.
There are times when you should buy the holder, Jack.
Sometimes.
There absolutely are. And it's very rare, but there are times when buying the holder pays off. I did for Jack Young.
Oh, okay. So now this guy is the eternal smartass. You ready? So which one would he send you? Look.
No, so I'm talking about Jack Young's pickle coin, the one that was slabbed and labeled as a split planchet, and it was actually sold it was being sold through an auction house, and it was a potentially a pricey coin, but it was actually just pickled.
Yeah, so again, folks, I'm not saying not to do it. I'm not saying you can't buy slab coins, and I'm not saying
those are special circumstances.
collect
They bought
stuff.
those for educational, right? They bought them for education. So to help you guys not spend that kind of money.
And there are people who collect very specific grades. There are people who collect and you know, whether you're talking about this Rip Pack and the black label and all of this stuff. There was an article done by NGC and another company I'm not going to mention because there's affiliations of people, SD Bullion, that said that they're doing a very specific label, and if this label takes off, it'll be extremely beneficial for their company. The label was designed by SD Bullion as a marketing ploy. They say they had no internal inherent value, but if it took off, it would be good for their company. It would show SD Bullion as the leader in this particular coin, so to speak. So it's all marketing. It's all strategy. And if you want to do it, you can do it. That's fine. And if you support SD Bullion, and that's your one thing. I have nothing with them. I've bought coins from them quite a bit. Rattler holders are again.
Yeah, that's another example, Mark.
Another example.
Perfect. Yep.
You're not buying that label. You're buying the holder in that case.
Yeah.
But again, there are situations. But be careful because most of the time you're never going to get. Yeah, exactly. Good for the corporation. Right. You're never going to realize your money back. Now, if you like it, you like it. But I can tell you right now that this particular coin right here, if I was in a pinch and I went to a place, I would get a little bit of a premium because it's a proof Libertad, but I would not get nowhere near what I paid for it. And I got a good deal on it. So make sure you understand when you're buying these collectible pieces like this, hey, it's a pretty damn thing, and I'm living in Texas, and the sugar skull is a big thing. I can resell this in Texas at zero issue. It will sell. There's a market for Libertads here, and a Proof 70 Libertad and a sugar skull. I go downtown around Fiesta, I could probably sell this for a ton of money. It's not a problem for me to resell this here. The problem is if I need the money and I'm in a situation where I'm short, I'm never going to get it realized. And so you have to look at what your purposes are and make sense of things, right? And be careful, right? A lot of people will use the MS-69, the MS-70 to upsell you dramatically way above its worth. And be careful for that. Right? I love the comments with one of the people I'm arguing with on Facebook right now, who told me I had no idea about this, and I sent him my the video on this that I did, and I was blocked from the page because he realized, oh, maybe this guy actually does know. And it makes me laugh because it's like, well, then that tells you something about, right, the people that you're dealing with. If you enjoy this stuff, be a collector. That's fine. But have realistic expectations. That's the important thing, right? Know what you're buying. And if you're really concerned, and folks, I've got beware of people. Yeah, Mardi Gras. Yeah, exactly. I've got good friends that sell stuff and that run games, and they do all sorts of crazy stuff. And you know, when you go in to do that, you're not doing that for the value. You're doing it for the fun. If that's what you're there for and you know that, that's your decision. but I would never recommend.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Everybody knows. Everybody knows. I've made it no secret how I feel about the gaming stuff. However, it is nothing. I have nothing personal against those people. Mad Stacker, I love him dearly. He is such a sweet man, and he just had a birthday. But he knows how I feel about the games, right? But you cannot um I guess support what somebody does. It doesn't mean you have something personally against them, you know. It doesn't mean you think they're bad people or whatever. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
well, it has not. So I'm talking about what you're willing to pay for something,
Oh, right.
right? And so I'm not talking about, are the games good? Are they bad? I've got lots of friends that run them. No big deal for me. I've got friends that absolutely resent them. And okay,
Yeah.
so what? I've got people that run the fence on both sides. But what you do for entertainment value is what you do for entertainment value, period, end of story. But I'm not going to send you to win a coin. I'm going to send you to the best deal. That means I'm sending you to a shop. I'm sending you to somebody who knows about it. I'm sending you to an expert. Right? And so why is that? Because I have a moral obligation. If you ask me, hey, Frosty, where's the best place for me to do this? To point you to it. Bank it. Yeah, there you go, THS. Bank it. Right? But you guys know I do this. I participate in that stuff. I'm not saying anything negative, right? I'm a bad person. Yeah, call me a bad person too. But I'm not going to. There's a separation of what I do personally for fun versus what I do personally for investment. And when I look, and this is the whole purpose for Stack Collector. Okay, if you go to do that to have fun, good for you. If now I talk about games. Now I used to play a game on my phone. And I was so enamored with this game, I would spend, and you guys are going to laugh when I tell you, between $500 and $700 a month on that game. Now, I was top rated. I was always in the top 1,000 people in a game that had millions of people playing it. I was number one in the world a couple times. Now, not for very long, because it constantly rotated out. But it was called Empires and Puzzles. And my name, Frostbyte, I was part of the Frostbyte. You see, Frost Giants was the name of our alliance. And I have multiple things where you look at, number one, and it was kind of a fun thing. It was just a status thing. And I woke up one day going, "Holy crap! Yeah, I do, Coach." And I have to be very careful with this. And I step away at times. You won't see me pop into certain things at certain times because I have to separate myself from this. This is why I'm so good at research, because I have an addictive personality. When I want to know about something, I dig into it. Mm-hmm. Right? And so I have to stop myself, and I put checks in place. And, I talk to a number of different people.
Can't, though.
A lot of people stop. They can't. You're absolutely right. A lot of people can't.
And that's my biggest problem with those, is that I have seen a lot of people who have put themselves in great debt. And I know that, okay, so before people start saying, well, you're not their gatekeeper, you're not their babysitter, they're grown adults, whatever, that's true. But as the way my personality is I can't help but be concerned about people at times.
So I'm going to caveat something before you go on, because we've talked about this a lot. The same thing happens with coin auctions.
Right.
People are addicted to shopping. So when we're talking about addiction, I do not want to get hung up on the games. That's not my thing.
No.
Pedro is exactly right.
It's a whole addictive thing, right? And people just as people get addicted to like the gaming stuff, they get addicted to the excitement of bidding on stuff and everything, and they get caught up. And I've seen too many times people get themselves in trouble. And if you've been in the community a long time, you've seen it where down the road, they end up having to sell everything that they have because they've got themselves in a lot of trouble. And then we lose them. We lose them in the community. We lose them to the hobby. They just leave, right?
But this happens, again, this happens with auctions. And I don't want to I'm not going to go any further into the addiction because this can be a really sour road for people.
Yeah, for sure.
But the same thing happens in coin auctions. And you see it we have good friends that sell stuff online. And we see people thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. Now, Pedro, I've been very clear about my attendance in the benefit auctions. I get wrapped up in wanting to do good and will put myself in trouble to try to help others. And that is a bad place to be in. So I have to steer myself clear. And this is why I've talked to a couple of people during this thing. And I'm like, I have a set amount of things that I can bid on, and then I can't be in the streams. It's not that I can't be there to support. I can't be there. I know that about myself, and I have to separate myself. It has nothing to do with an individual aspect of anything in our community. It has to do with the addictive personality. And sometimes you have to just know your limits and walk away. It comes with buying and selling coins. It comes with buying and selling baseball cards. It comes, well, I have to tell myself when to walk away.
And they get addicted too to also like helping people out. And I'm not saying that we have people in this community that have bigger hearts than I have ever seen.
Agree.
People in my entire life, and I'm 58 years old, and I mean the generosity in this community is overwhelming at times. So I'm not saying anything bad about where their heart's at. I'm just saying that it can be a problem for people, And
addiction.
And unfortunately, they get themselves in trouble, and there's not always those same people that will come to their rescue.
Now, and Paula, I'm going to share something. A lot of people know this, and I know you have no problem with me saying this. Paula has a fervent heart against addiction because she's been there.
Yep.
Okay, Paula, if you guys that don't know this, Paula's sandpaper, or she's metal. Now, what does that mean? Well, when you talk about things from the biblical sense, iron sharpens iron.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Bread doesn't sharpen a knife. Sometimes you don't need to be pliable. Sometimes you need to be rigid and you need to be firm. And if you're trying to create and grow somebody, sometimes being a little obtuse, I have to say that just because that's our laugh word, it's required. Sometimes people don't like the hard truth of the matter, but it needs to be said. But understand that when we talk about a generalized topic, it's very easy because of our own personalized experiences to focus it towards something very specific. And that's not the intent.
Mm-mm.
And this is why it was very clear for me to say, let's be clear on this. We're not talking about the gaming community. We're talking about addiction. We're not talking about the stacking community. We're not talking about the coin collecting community. We're not talking about the racing community. People who freaking metal detect get addicted to that crap too.
Yeah.
They spend time away from their families. They spend money that they can't have. Right. And so addiction is addiction. And we all have aspects of this in our lives. What we're talking about when we're talking about stuff like this is be careful of people utilizing that against you. If you know, and there are two people in this community that I have reached out, and the moment I see them, I text them and say, what are you doing here? Why are you here? We have talked about this. Mm-hmm. And if they tell me to back off, they tell me to back off. If they say, hey, I'm good, everything's okay, then it is totally up to them. But I have told them I will hold them accountable, and I have gone to the channels and told them there's this person here. They have the problem. They have acknowledged it with me. They have asked me to stand in the gap for them. Will you hold them accountable? And if they don't, I don't attend that channel.
Yeah.
Now, if they come back and they say, we've talked with them, they're going to do it anyway, and they've done it through other people, there's nothing I can do about that. But if you ask me to stand in the gap for you, damn it, I'm going to stand in the gap for you. And the discussion here is iron sharpens iron. Sandpaper, a grit, a sharpening stone, right, is the way to sharpen a knife. If you want to be sharp, if you want to be quick, you don't want to have rough edges, you need somebody to act as that sharpening stone. You need somebody to act as that metal against metal, because that's what makes us who we are. A true friend isn't afraid to hurt your feelings. And I have told people, look, I don't like what you've done. And I don't always do it properly. And I've had to swallow a very rough pill recently because I handled something incorrectly. I stand by what I said, but I absolutely did it incorrectly. So sometimes you need to swallow a little bit of pride and apologize for your actions. But it doesn't mean that iron doesn't sharpen iron. And we have to remember that ultimately we're here to have fun. We're in a hobby. Exactly, Coach. Right? If you can't have fun with this, if it becomes a hobby, if it becomes a tour, or if it becomes a problem, then maybe you need to step away for a bit. That's absolutely right. Right? Just like with sports. Triathlon was killing me. Quite literally, it was killing me. What? Paula?
I just said sometimes it's better just to walk away.
Yeah, and sometimes you have to, right? Yep. And that's knowing your own limitations. I did this with triathlon. I walked away from triathlon for a while because I needed to heal myself, my body, my actual body. I needed to heal it. And I realized after I left, I was way more damaged than I realized. And now I'm getting back and I'm healthier and I feel better and I'm starting to get back into this stuff. And sometimes you need to break away from this. But when we're talking about numismatics, when we're talking about collecting, when we're talking about stacking, information is power. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, that's what we're here to do for you. So I know we kind of deviated and went down another line, but it's very important you guys understand the context of this and know where we're at. We're not against any member of this community. Period. End of story. Doesn't matter how you talk about me. Doesn't matter how you act against me. I'm not against you. It's not what I'm here for. I'm here to teach. I'm here to educate and help who I can.
Yeah, right, Azure?
Oh, no, it's not a joke. But here's the thing. We need humor in our lives. We need to laugh, right? This is why I do witticism. These stupid jokes, and I tell dad jokes. Unfortunately, I had to separate it from Frostbyte Coins because people were only here watching the jokes, and it was killing my coin channel. So I actually had to separate them. But we all need to laugh. We all need to enjoy ourselves. And remember, God, life is hard, folks. It's a royal pain in the butt sometimes.
Yeah.
And if you let it get to you and let it make your decision, it's going to cost you some good friendships. Wow. And you can't do that. Yeah. Do not let this freaking hobby come between friends. And if you allow that, you're petty. Don't let it happen. We need to be bigger than this. Relationships can be mended. But
to a point.
To a point. Yeah. Once
To a point.
here's the thing about a wooden bridge. A wooden bridge can be repaired. But when you burn it, it's gone. Don't burn your bridges.
Exactly.
Don't blow them up. Right? Damage can be repaired, but destroying it destroys it. I don't think I can think of any better advice to end a note on than say, don't burn your bridges.
Yeah.
Hey, Paula. Love you, my friend.
All right, my friend. Well, everybody have a blessed weekend, and thank you to those of you for your kind words to me. I don't think you know how much it meant to me today. And everybody have a blessed weekend, and I'm going to get out of here because it's going to be a beautiful day, and I'm going to go get some vitamin D. Thanks, Frostbyte.
See you later.
As always. Love you, my friend.
Love you too.
Bye.
See ya. All right, folks. Well, hey, thank you so much for joining me on this numismatic history journey, talking about stacking and collecting. Again, you guys, Paula does a ton for this community. Make sure you're showing her props. Tell her that you appreciate her and you love her. She's done so much for my education. Mike, thank you so much for being here. I love and appreciate your work, what you guys do. Go check out and subscribe to the Coin Show podcast. If you're not over at Jack Riley, Jack Young, if you're near Facebook and you enjoy that, go check out their channel. And everybody send Eric and Chuck a how do you do. Go check them out. Tell Eric that you hope he feels better. He's kind of under the weather right now. So give him a big how do you do. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. I want to go get some yard work done. I'm going to go catch some sun as well. I hope you guys are well. We're going to be here tomorrow, normal time. Tomorrow's going to be Chit Chat. If you have a topic that you want to hear about, let me know so I have time to prepare it. Send me an email, frostbytecoins@gmail.com. I love you. Be well, be blessed, and I will see you in the streams. Take care.